Pure 11 Connoisseur, football cliches finest. You can hear Dave obviously on from the Rookery end as well. But Dave, how are you, my friend? It's great to see you back on. I was trying to think the last time you were on the channel.
Yeah, it's been a little while. I'm sure whenever it was, I'm sure we weren't having as good a time as we are now in terms of Watford. So yeah, it's been a nice start for the season, hasn't it? It's been quite fun. Everyone's in a good place, so it's all good.
Charlie, how are you? It's lovely to see you.
All good, all good. Looking forward to the weekend. It's an early kickoff, isn't it, Norwich?
It is 12:30. How do you feel about that, Dave? 12:30 Sky.
Well, yeah, I'm all right with it actually. Norwich is quite a good away day, but I won't be there this weekend. But it's nice that thanks to the new Sky Sports Plus situation, we'll be able to watch it. So yeah, it's all good.
Charlie, are you allowed to mention who you spoke to today, or is that confidential?
We can have. No one's gonna dob me in at work. Yeah, I had a nice phone call from one of my Spanish colleagues who were doing some filming today, and I had the pleasure to speak to Mr. Javi Gracia. So yeah, he's in good form, and yeah, there'll be some new content from him, Watford related, coming soon on the Coach's Voice. So keep an eye out for that.
Beautiful. These are the sort of exclusives you get here at WD18. Thanks so much to everyone who's watching live. If you could leave a like on the video, subscribe to WD18, comment down below your thoughts. Basically, the plan of action for today's video, we're going to preview Norwich tomorrow, or well, when this comes out, it'll be tomorrow in the 12:30 kickoff. And then we'll be doing our pure Npower Coca-Cola 11 with Dave, Charlie and myself, where we go through the years of Watford. There's a specific time range which we'll get into. We'll talk about the parameters of the players that are going to be involved, and we'll take your suggestions, get you involved. If you are listening on audio, you can always send us a tweet at WD18 fans to follow us on there as well. Look, I think the best place to start, Dave, actually, to get your thoughts on the last game against Coventry. Now, we met up afterwards, myself, Dave and Charlie, John, at the Mad Squirrel. And Sam, obviously, who's doing the Norway half marathon this weekend. So good luck to Sam, and wish him luck. And you can donate. The link's in the description below as well. Dave, how did you come away from Coventry last weekend overall?
You know what? Pretty happy in the end. I mean, it wasn't a great performance in the first half, was it? And we were pretty lucky to go in only 1-0 down. And then in the second half, we came back strong. We got the goal. We could have scored one or two more. We could also have lost it. Coventry had a few chances themselves towards the end. So it was a bit of a mad game. Lost chances for both sides. Quite entertaining. And the fact that we got a point in the end, and it leaves us, what are we, fourth in the top six? I think it was an important game not to lose. Because I think if we'd lost that game off the back of losing to Sheffield United before the international break, then you're looking at a couple of tricky games coming up, and it wouldn't have taken much maybe to be sort of 3 or 4 games without a win, and the atmosphere starts to change and it's a bit more tricky. So I think it was important for us to hang in there and get a point, and not for the first time this season we dealt with going behind early on, and we didn't let it take us under, and we came back, got ourselves into the game, and we came away with something. So I was pretty happy, really, all things considered.
Yeah, I think it's a really fair assessment, Charlie. The one big thing I wanted to mention going into this weekend was that record in terms of starts the game. So the stat at the moment with Watford starts the games is that we've conceded for the third game in a row in the first 4 minutes, which isn't a great stat.
Just giving everyone else a chance.
Well, this is the thing. Tom Cleverley was posed the question because he said he likes to sort of impose himself on the opposition. But it's quite hard to do that when you concede the first goal. So how do Watford stop conceding so early on? Is it a simple thing, or is it, as Adam Drury said in our last pod, that it is just a coincidence, he thinks, over the last 3 games anyway?
Yeah, we'll see at Norwich if it's a coincidence at 33 past 12. I don't know. I'm hoping so. It'd be interesting. Bonner's fit, isn't he, for this match day? So I doubt he'll start. But I've mentioned before about maybe a bit more experience in the back line. I don't really see Sierralta as that kind of leader. I think Matty Pollock's more of a leader, but he's still young. But yeah, it'd be interesting if we see Bonner on Saturday. But a stat that did catch my eye today, I think Andrew French tweeted it, and I might be wrong, get in the comments if I have, but is it Tom Cleverley's the first manager in like 121 years to go unbeaten in his first 9 home games as Watford manager.
Ooh,
That's a naughty
wow.
stat. And who's your source? Is my question.
Andrew French.
Okay. Well, if Andrew's, it must be true.
I'm hoping so. I just saw that flash up on my phone, so I might be wrong, but it just shows. Yeah, I think what Dave kind of said, spot on. And I thought, again, I'm just impressed every time I see Watford kind of fight back. And I thought the fact that Tom Cleverley was kind of able to read the game, change things up, or whatever he communicated to the players, kind of wrestled the momentum back. And I generally think if Chatfidatsi doesn't get injured, we go on to win that game. And I think the Vic was rocking, and I think if we would have got a winner in those circumstances, it would have been a famous day.
Do you know what? It was some interesting quotes actually from Cleverley about Chakfadatsy. So he mentioned that the injury wasn't as serious as first considered. Obviously went down. A lot of people were worried, and he went off on a stretcher. But it turns out it was a back spasm, which is uncomfortable, but it's not the end of the world. And he's a bit more than 50-50, he said, to play at the weekend. The plan is to make him available for selection, as Charlie mentioned, for Bar. Hopeful that he can play. He wants to integrate Tom Cleverley, Vata more into the squad, Loser and Ogbonna come back in to contention as well. We'll do our strongest 11 in just a second. Charlie, just throw it back to you first about Norwich, because I know you were on BBC Norfolk, was it this week?
Yeah.
Talking Norwich. So what were the guys saying there, and get a bit of insight on their side of things anyway?
So they were reacting to a 1-0 defeat away at Swansea, and they were not happy at all. A lot of their fans. It sounded very Watford social media based, but apparently a really negative reaction to that result. And yeah, they previously beat Coventry, so I think they're up and down. They're under a new manager from Northern, who's pretty young, pretty exciting, tries to play out the back. But I think the one thing that they're really worried about is their centre midfield. And they said with Sissoko and Tom Dele-Bashiru, they could get kind of overpowered. So they've still got really good players, like Sargent up front. I think they're going to be a threat. Obviously, it's at Carrow Road, but I made them known about our record against Norwich. I think we've won 8 of the last 10. And I feel like every time we play them on a Saturday when the sun's shining, we get the job done. So hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, Norwich is a weird team at the moment. They're trying to find their feet, as Charlie mentioned, under new manager Johannes Hoff Torp, the 35-year-old Danish manager. Battle of 2 young coaches, actually, between Cleverley and Thorpe as well. It feels like Norwich are going through a bit more of a transitional period. They also have just had their first team coach, Narcis Pelac, leave to be the new coach at Stoke City. Armin Kavaya is a man who's just left Watford today as part of Tom Cleverley's backroom staff after 10 years at the football club. But one line that I saw from the press conference, Dave, about Cleverley, he said, "This will probably be my toughest team selection up to date now." So with that, would you make any tweaks to that Coventry team, and with the team news that you've heard as well?
Right, yeah. Well, obviously, yeah, I think if it sounds like Chakvetadze probably won't be fit enough to start. If he's saying he's 50-50, I'm not sure, and he's not training with the main group, I'd imagine we'll put him on the bench and bring him on if we need him. So you've got to think, right, okay, who's going to play in that number 10, one of those number 10 roles to replace him? And then I think the other one is, well, there's a few others, but one of the other ones is up front. Does he start Jebison, who I thought did quite well when he came on against Coventry? He looked a bit rusty, a little bit, like had a sort of half chance that he kind of didn't connect with and maybe could have scored, but he was very busy, moving a lot, wanted to be involved, was demanding the ball, looked up for it, and obviously needs game time. And then, as you say, if Ogbonna's fit, does he go into the back line? How does that affect the other centre halves that we've had in that back three? We've also got competition for places in the wing back roles, as we've seen. So there are decisions for him to make. I would imagine that Jebison will start, though. I think in terms of that striker position, he's obviously been brought in to be the number one of the sort of 3 number 9s that we've got. Tom spoke about his kind of preferences for, in terms of profile, what he wants from a number 9 last weekend when he spoke to all of us on the kind of fan podcast scene. and he was very effusive about Jefferson's qualities, about his pace, about his movement, about his finishing. It sounded very much like he was really excited to have him as part of the group. So I think it's not surprising that he hasn't been, didn't start last week. He's still probably working his way into it, but I think he's the main man, and I expect him to start and hopefully kick on from there.
Charlie, would you start Jefferson? And I guess the other man to mention as well was Festi Ebesele, who came on against a Coventry as well.
Yeah, I think I would keep it the same in terms of I keep Ryan Andrews. I think he's played well this season. But yeah, I agree with Dave. I think Jefferson's got to start. I like the idea of him running at Grant Hanley or chasing him down. They've got a couple of older boys at the back. But yeah, he looks really bright. He's been playing in the Premier.
He's still got the guy from Brighton. What's the guy's name? The Irish centre-half from Brighton.
Shane Duffy.
Is Duffy still there?
He's still there. Grant
Hanley.
Hanley's another one. I mean, that is probably one of the most pure EFL centre-back duos, if we want to go into that sort of conversation. But anyway, sorry, Charlie. Ebesele, Jefferson.
Yeah, I think I'd start Ryan Andrews. I'd start Jefferson. And then it's at number 10 about Chatfordazzi. I think Chatfordazzi might play, I think the fact that he's not ruled him out, I think Tom's pretty, I don't know, he might be, I think he'd be pretty honest. So if not, I would start Rocco Vata. Got a nice little social clip from the media team in the week about a really nice finish from him, get the juices flowing. And again, I think when he came on, he had a really nice touch on Saturday, and he looks sharp, looks energetic. And I think when we're away from home trying to press them, and I thought some of our high pressing was pretty good against Coventry. There was one chance where Sissoko, we kind of penned him in. But if we can get Jefferson and Vata running across their back line, and again, they're trying to learn this new way of playing, so they're not going to be fully clicking. So yeah, that's what I'd go with, flair and pace.
Yeah, just a couple of comments on Ebesele. Cleverly said that his attributes is what he's looking for in a wing back. So that gives us an idea of the sort of player he likes. And he also said that Jefferson has a high potential here at Watford. We'll see if those two start at the weekend. Lads, are still our predictions for Norwich. Saturday, 12:30, awkward kickoff time. But as Charlie said, we've got a good record against Norwich and at Carrow Road, actually. Our last visit there, actually, I say that, we lost 4-2 and Esprit scored a worldie. The one before that, Bakuna, Gaspar, midfield 2, was was controlling the game. So, Dave, with all that in mind, what's your prediction?
I'm pretty confident, to be honest. Norwich not had a great start to the season. They've only won one match so far. They've not won at home. So, in some ways, that, though, does worry you, because at some point they will obviously get a home win. But we've got a good record there. We're playing well. I think we'll probably come off the back of last week's performance with a bit of confidence, a bit of resilience. So I think we might win this one, say 2-1.
Yeah, I'm going 2-0, Charlie.
Ooh, I'm going 3-3.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God, Charlie, I've just remembered how annoyed I was on that pod after Norwich last season. Do you remember? 4-2.
There's many pods like that, Jacob.
Oh yeah, there was, to be fair. But I remember I couldn't believe we threw that away. I think we got back into the game.
Came back into the game, didn't we? Yeah, we played all right.
Oh, still annoys me to this day. Anyway, we move on. Let us know your predictions for Norwich. Let us know which team you'd go for Norwich as well. And let us know which team you would go for our purest Coca-Cola Npower 11. Now, Dave, I'm good. The floor is yours. For people who don't know, you're a connoisseur of pure 11s. So my question would be, what is a pure 11 and what are we sort of judging this Coca-Cola Npower 11 on?
Right. So I think when you're choosing these sort of 11s, right, and obviously this is kind of off the back of the recent kind of Barclaysman trend, and then we had the Coca-Cola man trend, who the lads from the not the top 20 pod kind of managed to get out there, and it's not about the best. That's the main thing to say. It's not about the best players of a particular era. It's the players who embody the spirit of that particular era or category, whatever it might be. So Jacob, you can tell us what the years were. So we kind of had a few years of Coca-Cola, then we went up, didn't win the Premier League, and then we had Npower when we came down. But there's a particular set of years, and it's like, who are the players that really, when you think of those seasons and those years and that sponsorship on the sleeves, who first comes to mind?
Yeah, for a bit of context, so we're talking Coca-Cola from 2004 all the way up to the 09-10 season, and then from the 10-11 to the 2012-13 season, that was Npower. So you're really talking from 2004 to 2013. Watford players. Charlie, I actually am going to let you start off with a formation, because this is a man who prides himself on tactical ability, tactical analysis. What would you feel would be the purest formation to go with?
It's certainly not what Tom Cleverley's playing at the moment. I don't think it's a 4-4-2. I think that's more your Carlings, your Carlingsman. I think in this era would be more of a, and again, this is up for debate. I might be miles off. I think it's the start of a 4-2-3-1.
Why do you think it's the start of a 4-2-3-1?
I just think it's a change of a kind of more tactical trend, more data, and I think the fact that the wingers were a lot different. I think when we go to this and get in the comments, when I was looking at a left winger, I was really struggling as like a pure left winger. I don't know. I just do these times, especially Npower. I think it's more of a 4-2-3-1, and I think then when Pep comes over to England, I think then it comes to more of a 4-3-3 with Jurgen Klopp. Dave, are you having 4-2-3-1, or are you challenging it?
I would put money on every single championship game that we played between the Coca-Cola eras and the Npower eras was 4-4-2. Maybe a 4-5-1 at times, but I think it was pretty, especially when you think of the managers we had: Lewington, Boothroyd, Mackay, Dyche, and then you've got Zola at the end, and he obviously played 3 at the back. But those guys, they're not 4-2-3-1 merchants, are they? And Dyche still playing 4-4-2 now in the Premier League.
And also, when Zola came in, I remember he brought the 3 in the back in, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, we've moved to a 3 at the back," because we had just had 4 at the back for years and years and years. So, Charlie, we're going to go with a 4-4-2. As always, let's know in the comment section your players, your teams. We do probably have to start with the manager, though. I think you can't really get into the team without having a manager.
Did you do the manager at the end, Dave, or the start?
I would do the manager at the end, probably.
Oh, okay, we'll sit up.
Yeah.
You know what, Dave? Crack on, goalkeeper.
And of course, the other manager I didn't mention there was, of course, Brendan Rodgers. He probably did play sort of 4-3-3, didn't he? But yeah, okay, goalkeeper. I mean, for me, there's an obvious shout for goalkeeper for this one, and I have got a backup, but I think Ben Foster. I know Ben Foster came back to the club in the Premier League era not too long ago. But when Foster played for us in that promotion season, he was just so good. He was so good.
It's not about being good.
No, it's not. It's not necessarily about being good. But I think we did see I think we saw the best of him in a way. I know he had a great career, played for Man United, played for England, played for West Brom, Birmingham, and all that. But this sort of youthful exuberance like this, we felt excited. It's very rare you feel excited about a goalkeeper, and the fact that we had this guy on loan from Man United kind of came out of nowhere, and he had this massive kick, and he was, there were some games he really sort of kept us in the game. It felt like we'd kind of cracked the code. Oh, wow, we've got this amazing keeper who's really going to help us, and he played a massive part in that promotion season. And Foster himself might disagree with this, but I in a way I don't think it ever got better for him than in that season.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm not having this at all. He is a Barclaysman, surely. He had his best years in
probably
doing the Watford, and again, because he played so many seasons for us in the Premier League, I don't see him. I don't see him as that. For me, there's only one, and it's got to be Scott Loach.
Wow, I was not going in the direction of Scott Loach, I have to admit, but talk to me.
Scott Loach, just in that period, that's when I think of the baggy shirts and the muddy pitch of Vicarage Road. And the one memory I've got sticking out with him, do you remember when he was the under-21 keeper and we got to the final and he made a big mistake early on?
We lost 5-0.
But
who was in goal for Germany that night? Do you remember who was in goal for Germany? His opposite number?
Was it Neuer?
It was Manuel Neuer, yeah.
Whatever happened to that guy?
I know which tree I'd rather have.
Yeah, for me, Scott Loach, and then the only other name that I had in my pocket was Manuel Almunia.
Yeah, I struggle with Manuel. I struggle, unfortunately. Look, Scott Loach, great shout in the Bico lime green kit, sort of pinging in his Umbro boots out wide to the big man's up front. But the one thing about Malmunia, I don't think he reeks of Npower for me. I think he could have easily playing in La Liga, I think. Or he could have played Ligue 1. Does he scream to you Championship? But I guess for the moment alone with Troy up there.
Bloke's playing a Champions League final. But yeah, I know. We shouldn't necessarily take that stuff into account. I know what you're saying about Ben Foster as well, Charlie, but it's about what they mean to Watford, I suppose.
Right.
But I mean, I think Scott Loach probably is the right answer. He was in goal for the ghost goal. Ultimately his career didn't come to much and he showed a bit of promise early doors, but he basically was the guy, wasn't he, for the most, he was the goalkeeper who pretty much embodied the sort of humdrum nature of the middle period of that era.
Okay, I'm going to throw my shout into the mix. So we've had Manuel Almunia, we've had Scott Loach, we've had Ben Foster. Now I'm going to throw in a man who not only was a goalkeeper for Watford, but he loved the baseball cap, and that's Richard Lee. Now, Richard obviously spanned his career at Watford over the Coca-Cola and just at the back end of the Npower. Maybe not for Watford, but certainly at Brentford. I remember he was at a few different clubs, Richard. Great guy, first off. But also, I have to say, when you initially came to me, Dave, and you said, who screams a bit of Coca-Cola? Richard Lee, I don't know why, but I see him in that kit. I also see him as a man who embodied the spirit of this conversation more than Almunia. Scott Loach, maybe not. I'll give you that. But I think he does more than Ben Foster. So I'm going to... my name is Richard Lee. What do you reckon?
think the fact that he played for Brentford in that time helps, but surely Loach is our number one.
I think Loach is... And we'll have Richard as a sort of the sub-keeper. It's a nice way to do it. Okay, we move on to the back four.
Yeah.
Go on. Let's do the two centre-backs together, I think, Dave.
Plenty of choice here. I mean, I think you've probably got to have Jay Demerit in there.
Yeah.
I think, his first season was 04-05, which was that first Coca-Cola season. The Premier League season sort of is a bit annoying in this 11 because it kind of skews things a little bit. They obviously, a lot of these players had that 1 year up in the Premier League, which would have been peak Barclays as well, 06-07 that season. But he came back down with us, and obviously he went on to play in MLS. He played for the US national team and all that. But Jay Demerit was Watford. His career really was about the amazing story that he had coming over here and managing to get a trial against Northwood and all that, or playing for Northwood and then playing for Watford. And, I think he is a true Coca-Cola man. And I think, he's got to be in there for me anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I'd go as far to say the purest of the lot, Charlie.
Yeah, I think we should maybe debate that right at the end, who's the purest or a top three. But again, like that header in the playoff final at Millennium Stadium. And again, it just feels like, obviously with the sponsorship, even the trophy was a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? I'm trying to think of different sponsors now, if they were the trophy, if the sponsors were the trophy. Anyway, that's for another one. You can have that for Cliches, Dave, maybe. Jay Demerit.
We'll agree, Jay Demerit, and then Charlie. Let's do the other centre-back.
My nomination for the other centre-back would be Big Danny Shitu. An absolute mountain of a centre-half. No nonsense. Powerhouse. No one could get round him. The fact that he played for, I think, Millwall, Reading and QPR as well. Only good memories. I've got him on one of the back of my shirts. Oh, now we're talking.
Here he is.
That's beauty. For people who can't see, Charlie's holding up. What year was that? Was it 07-08?
It's the Becca.
Yeah,
I think this was the season after we went down, was it?
Yeah. Under AD.
Got the signature somehow. I can't remember how I got that. But yeah.
That's a great shirt.
I remember just playing football with Shitu on the back, which was pretty bizarre. But yeah, he was one of my favourites back in the day, and whether he was really good or not, who cares? He was a cult hero for me.
He was good enough. He was kind of a big signing for us when we went up to the Premier League. But I always just remember the fact that he got played up front a few. I think Demerit and Shitu both started games up front for Watford. At some point I'm almost certain that when in desperate times, Boothroyd started them both up, not together, but I'm sure. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just one or the other, but I remember them both being thrown up front, and I'm sure there was at least one game from the start or something like that.
Well, I think that probably is the two. I'm going to throw a few honourable mentions. So we're going to go with Jay Demerit and Danny Shitu, if you approve of that, Dave. I mean, look, there was a couple of names when I wrote a few down. To be honest, as soon as I heard the conversation, Nyron Noseworthy came straight to my mind. A man who had his best years at Sunderland, but my God, when he came to Watford on loan initially in 11-12, then moved across permanently in 2012 as well. I just thought he was such an underrated footballer. And also at the time, just gave us a little bit of calmness, gave us a little bit of composure at the back, but also that physical presence as well. One man who did like to put himself about, and someone who did stretch across the Npower years, I like to think, Martin Taylor. He really is up there for me as well. I think it was Palace away on the opening day of against Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace, Zola's first game, and he got a game, and it was like Martin Taylor amongst loads of Udinese loanees, and it just really did just resonate with me.
Yeah,
so
he was on my list.
So do you want to? Is there any other mentions we want to? So we're going to go with Danny Shitu. We're going to go with Jay Demerit, just in front of Scott Loach.
I think that's fair enough. I mean, probably an honourable mention for AD Mariappa as well.
Yeah,
a man who really, obviously, kind of got his sort of breakthrough in the Premier League season. Started the first game against Everton in the Premier League, but then didn't play that much rest of the season. But then for the seasons afterwards, before he got his move, where did he move to? Did he go to Portsmouth? Was it?
I think he was
Reading. Yeah, Reading. Yeah.
I thought it was Palace. He was there on.
He ended up there later on. Yeah. But yeah, look, had some really good seasons for us. Maybe more towards the Npower era. But I don't think you can argue with Shitu and Demerit.
Okay, moving on.
The only other honourable mention, Gabriel Angela, when he came bit towards the end of the Npower, but he was a fun watch. I remember going
tough,
to
isn't it? For that last season, Charlie, like that Zola season here, it's like it's kind of we associate it with the beginning of the Pozzo era, the Zola season. I sort of have them all separate as their own thing. But as you say, if it was the last Npower years, then maybe we shouldn't discount them.
I remember the calls that we should get Angela into the Premier League when we were light on a few centre backs. I was like, I love Gabriel, but one of those, probably a cult hero in the Championship. We move on to right back, and I'm going to kick this one off because I've got a burning desire to say this one. Really, my purest Coca-Cola Npower right back, I'm going to go with Lee Hodson. Now,
what?
Look, there's many reasons for it, Charlie. But if you want a man,
he's over your shoulder, man.
No, but if you wanted a man to epitomise that period for Watford for me, it'd be Lee Hodson. Not pretty on the eye. No disrespect to you, Lee, if you're watching. He's currently at Eastleigh, ticking over. But look, one that came through the academy. At the time, obviously, we weren't financially that we weren't lucrative in the transfer market. We had to use what we had. Lee came in. He did a job for a number of years at Watford from 09 to 13, which covers the transition, by the way, from Coca-Cola to Npower, which must be reiterated. 83 games, 1 goal to his name. The obvious one would be Lloyd at right back.
Yeah.
But Lee Hodson, for me, he just resonates with me in that period. So I'm going to go with Lee. What do you reckon?
You can't look past Orley. I thought this wasn't even going to be a conversation. When you talk about longevity, I think he's probably played in every season throughout the Coca-Cola and Npower, and it's just Lloyd Dino, the goal at QPR, the gloves.
You are right. You're right. Obviously, Lloyd is an icon. Also, number 12, same as Hodson. He's number. he sort of transcends it in a way. Like, I think Lloyd's got a shout for the all-time Watford 11. Like, I think he's in the conversation. He might not get it, but I think he's definitely in there with Gibbs or whatever. I think you've got to mention James Chambers.
Yeah.
Who was a good signing for us. We signed him from West Brom in that Lewington scene. I think it was 04. You played a good part in that team that got to the League Cup semi-final and then scores in the playoff final. With the well, I think actually went down as an own goal in the end, but it was the most appalling goal you'll ever see in a game of that magnitude. But nevertheless, I mean, he made it. His shot somehow bounced off the turf, deflection off the post, off the keeper, and went in. But I think he's got a shout. I mean, I love Lloyd. Lloyd's probably in my top 3 Watford players of all time. But is he bigger than this? Is Lloyd bigger than this? I don't know.
I am shocked. I thought this was the banker.
The no-brainer. Are we going to go?
What's it past him? I would personally go Chambers over your man Hodgson, unless
Roy Hodgson or Lee Hodgson.
Lee Hodgson, unless you fancy a cheeky, again, more Npower, but Marco Cassetti. But I'd vote Chambers over Hodgson.
Let's go with Chambers. Let's go with Chambers or Lloyd.
Now it's coming down to it. Oh, God, I feel so bad for Lloyd, but I stand by it. As you asked me at the start what these things are all about, right? And I think Lloyd, to his credit, is bigger. He's bigger than this.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. He's got bigger fish to fry than our 11. So
what other 11 is he going to be in? The all-time?
Best Watford 11. Yeah, exactly.
He's definitely got a shout for it, for sure.
Can we name a greater Watford right back in our history?
Nigel Gibbs was the other one, I guess, with the longevity. But I think Chambers feels right. It feels right to me. He feels right to me.
It does feel right, and also that red kit as well, that away kit. Oh, beautiful. Sorry, Dave.
Chambers is in. He's on the board.
Okay, we've got Scott Loach at the back, James Chambers at right back, and then a back two of demerit and Shitu. We move on to left back, Charlie. I'll tell you what, I think we're ticking the right boxes here in this 11 so far in terms of what this means. So left back, Charlie, give us a few names.
Yeah, I don't think there was many names actually, but all I can remember is a Friday night we were playing Wolves away, Molineux, live on Sky. I can't remember the game state, but your man Jordan Stewart stepped up and hit an absolute belter with his left foot. To be honest, that's one of the only memories I've got on him. But the first thing I thought when I looked at this list for left back was Jordan Stewart. Have I missed anyone out? Any other contenders?
He was mine, Dave.
I haven't got him in there, but just because I thought he just ultimately was just a bit crap, wasn't he? But he obviously was, that was his era. I had, far be it from me to correct you, Charlie, but I think you'll find that was a Saturday game, that Wolves game. I was there. It was the first game of the season when we came down from the Premier League, and we scored a couple of goals in the last minute. One of which being that Jordan Stewart free kick. He's definitely in there. A pure Coca-Cola man, if there ever was one. Other names that I have on my list, though, Andrew Taylor, the left back we had him on loan, didn't we? From Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough, and he scored that goal against Portsmouth.
Yeah,
in front of the Rookery, one sweet volley.
Nice goal, yeah. But I mean, I don't know if him being a lone player discounts him because did he not leave to join Malky at Cardiff? Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is probably Stewart. There's a couple of these guys are not very good necessarily, but they sort of do remind you of that era. And I've got Paul Mayo and Jermaine Darlington, who were, not the greatest players by any stretch, but both sort of found themselves playing at left back in that era, I think.
Can we chuck John Harley into the mix? Is that a bit too...
John
Is that a
Harley.
bit too far? A man who was
I like John Harley.
a squad player who he was versatile. You didn't really know his best position. I don't think he did. Whether it was left mid, right mid, left back, right back, he could do a job anywhere in that Biko strip.
I was going to say, did he play for us? Then?
Lads, I'm telling you, John Harley, he needs to make it. He has to make it in here.
How many games did he play for us?
John Harley or Jordan Stewart?
I don't think I can have Jordan Stewart. He was just seeing so many. He was the classic 50p head, wasn't he, Jordan Stewart?
I'm sorry if he's going up against Harley, who I can't even. How many games?
John Harley played 83 games for Watford.
83.
Yeah.
And I've got
08, 09, 10. Yeah.
He's a traditional left back, Charlie.
Must have been started drinking that era.
I think we need somebody. I do think we need somebody from that era. I mean, I know we've got Loach. We've got 3 defenders there, proper mid-noughties. We probably do need somebody from the slightly later vintage.
Does John Harley get the nod?
Well, look, it's John Harley. I would throw in another Lee Hodson shout because, look, he can play both sides. But it's John Harley or Jordan Stewart for me.
Matthew Briggs?
No. Get out of here. Get out of it.
I was holding on to that one. I was like, surely not.
Goodness me.
Go on. Go get John Harley in there.
Let's
Chuck
get
him
John
in there.
Harley in
Why
there.
not?
Let's get him in. John Harley makes it a left back. He makes up the back four. So we've got Scott Loach in goal, a back four of James Chambers, Danny Shittu, Jay Demerit, and John Harley. Okay, we move on to the midfield 2. Charlie.
Hang on. For a bit of visual representation, I'm too slow typing
Right,
out. You're
There
not
we
getting
go.
past that back line, are you?
That's a cracking back line.
It's not bad.
Daniel Pewdill was another shout people have gone for.
2 Premier League, wasn't he?
A little bit.
Was he?
Yeah.
Prudel.
More
Well, he
Npower.
didn't play in the Premier League, but yeah, more of a.
Did he play for? I thought we bought him when we got promoted.
No, he played in that first
Oh,
season.
sorry, left back Daniel Prudel. Sorry, I'm getting Sebastian. I'm getting mixed up.
Prodel.
Your Prudels.
Okay, we move on to the midfield 2. Now, Charlotte, one of our moderators, has had midfielders Gavin Mahon and John Eustace every day of the week. Gareth's mentioned Al Bangura to be in that conversation.
Al Bangura, bang, 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 bang. What a time.
So on that, Dave, your midfield 2, can you argue with that from Charlotte?
It's hard to argue with that. I had Gavin Mahon on my list. I'd forgotten about John Eustace for my sins, but he obviously he's right there as well. You know, a legend really. Yeah, Al Bangura is great. Like he's in all those shots of the promotion at Cardiff and it's just strewn with Coca-Cola branding. He's got the Coca-Cola t-shirt on, and he really only had sort of two and a bit years, if that, kind of in the limelight, and his career faded away. But you know, obviously an amazing story that he had sort of off the field as well. He's definitely worthy of an honourable mention. Other contenders in that era, you have Matt Spring, obviously, I think in that promotion era, but you know, do we do him down because of the Luton connection still? Maybe. Was Don Cowie a central midfielder? Was he a winger?
Another one of sort of Malky's players that could play multiple positions, but I've got Don Cowie down as a central midfielder.
Okay. Yeah, same. But I wasn't sure. But I do. I mean, yeah, Charlie, unless you've got any advances, I think it's hard to compete with a midfield 2 of Mahon and Eustace, isn't it?
It is. For me, Mahon's the number 1 out of those 2. I just think, we talk about with Doyley, Eustace is on another level in terms of kind of the Watford, his reputation. I think Gavin Mahon is just perfect for it. He scored a belter as well? Was it in the same game as Andrew Taylor? I'm not sure if it's the same game, but
you're thinking again. No, he did score a great goal against Portsmouth. That was in the Premier League.
That's the Premier League. Sorry, apologies.
But he was the captain at Cardiff that day. He was captain for the promotion season, and also I remember quite vivid memories of the game against Derby at home in 04-05 when the chairman, Graham Simpson at the time, came on the pitch before the game and did a big rallying cry to all the fans. It's a big game. We've got to win this 6-pointer. And Mahon scored the winner that day. I mean, those were his best years. Obviously, he left, didn't he? And sort of not amazing circumstances in the season when we came down, but like those few years leading up to promotion, that was his time.
I think we're set on John Eustace, Gavin Marn, Charlie.
Whoa. Steady on, Jacob. Couple of names to fill out there. Jonathan.
I just wanted to do that, to be honest, just throw out some random players.
Jonathan Hogg, I had on my list.
Is the longevity there?
And I don't know if it's just, I don't know, but I've had him down. Obviously, got the important assist for Deeney in the playoffs. But I just loved Jonathan Hogg as a player. Obviously, still doing his thing at the Huddersfield now.
He's very Npower, isn't he, Jonathan Hogg?
Because
he would have left, wouldn't he? He would have left us. Did he leave us that summer and go to Huddersfield?
I think he was with us for a couple of seasons after that, and then I think maybe when we got promoted or the season before we left. But yeah, he reeks of Npower. Sean Murray, is Sean Murray a central midfielder?
Sean Murray.
He could be out wide, but yeah.
Yeah. A couple of others I had written down just to chuck it out there. Jordan Much. I know there isn't the longevity there, but someone, who had I remember vividly QPR going on this unbelievable run at the start of the 10-11 season. I think they won 22 games in a row. We rocked up on BBC, Jonathan Pearce on commentary, and Jordan Much pinged it to that far corner, and Martin Taylor tried to nick it off him. Danny Graham scoring 2. Absolute carnage in that away end. A couple of other names to throw out there. Don Cowie was one of them. There was also John Joe O'Toole, another player who's playing at Wimbledon at the moment. John Joe still going strong at 35. But I think we're set. It's Gavin Marn. It's John Eustace as the midfield too.
I'd rather Al Bangura over Eustace personally. He's just got more of that Coca-Cola sheen. He's I like the story. I just remember that day when did we all have masks? They're all on our seats.
It was posters. It was like it was posters. It was Save Al. Save Al. Yeah.
Save Al. And,
I had one on my wall at uni. I remember taking it home with me, putting it on my wall. Yeah.
The girls loved that when you brought them back. I'd personally like to see Al Bangura get the call up, but I'll leave it to you.
I'm always happy for Al to be involved. If you want to get him in there.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Dave.
Hey?
You giving that to us?
What, the Al Bangura mask?
No.
unless we do a 4-5-1 and we get him, we get all 3 of them in there and we just have one striker.
I think let's do it. I think
can't have one striker.
Okay.
That makes the conversation better. I think we've just got to pick one pure Coca-Cola Npower striker. Who's the purest striker?
Yeah, it'll be tough. There's a few names.
Bangura or Eustace?
Well, I think let's give ourselves the option for now, right? Let's leave them both. Let's put them both in there, and we might change it when we come back. We'll come back and decide at the end. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, right sides.
You want my 4-2-3-1 now, don't you?
Yeah.
Dave, right side. What names are we talking here?
So I think Paul Devlin is probably worth a shout. We had a couple of good years out of him, sort of towards the end of his career, but actually like a sort of winger you don't find anymore, do you? Like not lightning quick, but like quick over a few yards, can get it, can knock it, can get a good ball in, has got a goal in him, but tough as well. Like likes a challenge, likes the physical side of the game. So I liked him. I thought he was a good player for us. Would you? And it just kind of depends. With the other shout I've got is whether you sort of have him as a left winger, right winger, or a striker. But I think you've got to mention Tommy Smith at some point, haven't you?
Yeah, I saw him more as the striker role, but right wing. If you had to shoehorn him in,
Smith's got to be one of the purists. Like he was unbelievable for us. Probably both spells. My memories of him were playing on the right. I don't know if that was the earlier and he moved more centrally, but I wanted.
He also had 2 great Coca-Cola seasons at Derby and Sunderland as well.
Yeah, it's a shame he went to QPR. Didn't he score the winner to? Did they get promoted or something? Oh, I can't remember.
Don't remind me.
Vic, he did. Yeah.
And but another player who I wanted to mention, Hammer Watson. he was is it Algerian, wasn't he? And he just seemed like that bit of flair, bit of magic. Didn't know what you were going to get from him every day. I vividly remembered I think we were in the Premier League at the time, but when he scored that kind of scissor kick, bicycle kick at Villa Park against Manchester United, and this was prime Manchester United. But he played for us for a couple of seasons, I think, before we got promoted, definitely with Boothroyd. And I think he got his move to Fulham, was it? Fulham. Maybe when he went down. But I loved him.
The one for me was Hammer Bouatsa. Weirdly, I think that day we had the all-yellow kit, didn't we? At Villa Park.
Yeah, that was the FA Cup semi-final, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Hammer Bouatsa was mine. I just think he ticks all the Coca-Cola Npower. Well, maybe
was he
not
right winger? Was he not left?
So I went on transfer market, David. He could play either side. That's how good he was.
He was left-footed, wasn't he?
Maverick. I'm going to go with Hammer Bouatsa. Yeah.
Yep.
What do you reckon?
Right, get him in there. Yep.
Cool.
We're going to be leaving some big names out as it stands. I wanted to get Tommy Smith on the right because I knew the strikers, but I'll get him in for now.
Okay. I've got a few names for the left sides just to throw out there. This is I basically haven't decided on one. Mark Yates initially just came to me as a man who loved Npower just in general. I mean, my first...
Did he? Really, really, real passionate for the Npower brand, was he?
Yeah, he loved it. He had
they were his energy provider.
One thing, my first impression of Mark, not when I met him, but when I saw him live, he was actually playing for Sheffield United, and Dyche was the manager. And I remember we were 3-0 up at half time, and we were cruising in the game, and he came on, ran around a little bit, and I think the week later we bought him for, it must have been around, well, it must have not been that much at the time, but he played his best football at Watford. Mark Yates for me. Also, just got to mention, he did play in that first season, 2012-13. I think he set up Chris Owolumo against Wycombe Wanderers in the League Cup, which is one thing to mention. Will Buckley, another man I wanted to mention, because honestly, when we got him, I think we got him on loan from Brighton. And I remember just thinking he was a step above everyone else. And
we signed him. No, we signed him from Rochdale, and then we sold him to Brighton.
Didn't we sell him for like what we thought at the time was quite a big fee, but it was probably like £1 million?
Yeah, maybe not even that. I think it was like 950 grand or something silly like that. But like, yeah, he had like his flame burned brightly but briefly, didn't it?
He was highly thought of, I think.
Yeah,
when he came to us, because he was fairly young, but I don't know what happened after Brighton.
I think he had injuries.
Nothing good ever starts with he was highly thought of. I'm going to go my shout, Will Buckley. Dave, talk to me.
Well, I think you've got to mention Anthony McNamee. Maybe his best season though was his first season, which was the last non-Coca-Cola season, perhaps. But like he really did burst onto the scene back then. But maybe his best was just a little bit before that era. What do we think about Ashley Young? Like one of the ultimate Barclays men, but had an amazing time for us in the Coca-Cola years for sure.
I think it goes into that Ben Foster conversation, doesn't it, Charlie? Where you play your best years in the Prem. Can you be classed as a Coca-Cola man? I'm not too sure. Yeah,
he was amazing when I think he burst on the scene a bit. His burst was bigger than Anthony McNamee's, but he was brilliant, wasn't he? That playoff semi-final against Crystal Palace, that free kick, and he had that attitude still back then, didn't he? I think he's still got it now, to be honest. Loved him, but yeah, him at Aston Villa was just so Barclaysman for me.
Could have Tommy Smith on the left.
Well, I've got one more name, and I'm sure he played as a left back, left wing back, and we need a bit more Npower in this team. Akechi Anya. He was absolutely rapid, and he was one of the key players for us. Maybe not the first season, and he played for us under Sanino in the second season after Zola left, and even after that. But for me, he was one of the names, just kind of physically, when you see him with his afro, his personality. I remember that goal at Barnsley when he ran the length of the pitch. He was one of those that stood out as a kind of Npower, the influx that came in with that Football Manager Puma kit. we need some more Npower in this team. I'd like to put forward Anya.
Yeah, you sold him to me. I think he's probably just edges over McNamee, Dave. I mean, he's absolutely blown it away with Mark Yates. Will Buckley, on the other hand, still, I would have put him into the conversation, but it's not my call. Let's go with Akechi on the left-hand side. So run us through that midfield, Charlie. So Akechi Anya on the left, Hamid Bouat's on the right, a midfield two of Gavin Mann and John Eustace.
Well,
so
this is what we've got, and we've got the three midfielders in. This looks too.
Sorry, Al's got to go.
Oh, justice for Al. Right.
Well, after the revelation that Dave had his face on the wall.
Yeah.
Farewell, sweet prince.
Jacob quoting the Home Office in 2007 there.
I just said farewell, sweet prince, which reminded me of Prince Bourbon.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, when you throw Stephen McGinn into the mix as well, you could go all night.
Yeah.
Let's go two up front. And this is the hardest of the lot because
it's going to be tough. Yeah.
Ben said up top, though, how do you choose between Helguson, Danny Graham, Marlon King, Matteo Vidra, and Troy Deeney?
And there's a few more you can chuck into the mix as well after that. It's tough. We've got a lot of names to go through here. So I think it's easy to get rid of some early doors, right?
Who are we getting rid of?
Deeney can't be in here.
Deeney is under the Lloyd Doyley rule.
Yeah,
as discussed earlier on, he's in the all-time bracket. Okay, transcends the whole thing, and obviously had an amazing time of it in the Premier League. Helguson is an interesting one. Played in both the Coca-Cola and the Npower eras when he had his loan spell when he came back with us. Had his his best season for us was that last season before he left when we were still in the Championship. So I think he's definitely in with a shout. I think Danny Graham really, really embodies that sort of post Boothroyd era. He's the first player you think of when you think of that kind of Malky kind of time, don't you? Marlon King's a tricky one. Had one great season with us. I think I'd rule him out on that basis. One great season. And also, come on, he's a bit of a wanker, isn't he? So let's get rid of him.
The elephant in the room just got squished. I love it.
Okay. I think Dave's rattled off the list.
There's so many more names for me. Like, I've got Marvin Sordell.
Yeah, amazing.
Tamas Priskin. Wow, and I think another player more, Npower. And I don't know if he's up front, maybe a second striker. Fernando Forestieri, who was at the training ground today, was he?
He's back.
Yeah. Building.
Free agent.
He was in the new training kit, or maybe
looks in decent nick.
Maybe he knew what we were doing today and putting himself in the shop window for our 11. But if Sheffield Wednesday were doing one of these, he might be in there. I looked at one of these videos for him, and I could not believe the amount of screamers he scored for them. He brought the vibes, didn't he? Vidra as well.
I think Vidra's got to be in.
My number one who's got to be in is Henderson, Darius Henderson. He was the first name when Coca-Cola Man came up. Seeing him in the early years before we got promoted, that bleached blonde hair, even before that big boy up front holding it up. He was the one who sprung to me. He was what my gut told me.
So I think you've got to throw Steve Cabber into the mix. Now this is
let's have Steve Cabber and Nathan Ellington up front.
You can talk about Nathan Ellington, the Duke. Obviously, he didn't make this one after his record deal from Ipswich. Steve Cabber. I mean, look, we didn't even mention Damien Francis in the Coca-Cola section, but that'll be one for another day. I had a few written down. Honourable mention to Gregor's Raziak, who enjoyed a lot of Coca-Cola football. I felt Tamas Priskin is right up there for me because I think with these you think of moments, and I think of Chelsea in the FA Cup. Granted, not in the Coca-Cola sort of fixture, it was in the FA Cup, but that chip over Petr Cech, I remember live peaking. I know Charlie's live peaked that game as well, actually.
Yeah, let's not go through that story again. Did he score against Tottenham as well in the League Cup?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He did.
Big game player was Tamas.
So I think we've got it down really to Mate Vydra, Danny Graham, Dave, the other ones you mentioned. Helgeson, Tommy Smith, you can throw into that conversation.
Oh, this is so tough.
Shall we all go through our twos and see if we land on something?
Okay.
I've got a suggestion. I think. Well, I don't know. We haven't really mentioned Tommy Smith, have we? So maybe Tommy just misses out.
Tommy on the right wing over Buatsa. We'll maybe come back to that after we got our front two.
Yeah, we could have a little we can have one sort of redo at the end. I mean, Helgeson. I think Helgeson. The fact that he played in the Coca-Cola and the Npower, I think that's pretty compelling, isn't it?
How many seasons was he with Watford though? He was like 2004, maybe 05, and then he went on to.
Well, we signed him in 2000, didn't we, in the Premier League? We sold him in 2005.
Yeah.
So he had five seasons and a little loan spell.
And he came back. Yeah. For me, I would go with Danny Graham and Henderson. That'd be my two. I'm
agreed on Danny Graham. I think you've got to have Danny Graham in there. I think he's right in the sweet spot of this thing. Henderson, I see it. You know, he scored in that playoff final. He had a great season that year, and he was definitely not a Premier League striker, was he? He was a pure sort of Football League Coca-Cola man of the era. But then you have got a few other good shouts there as well.
I'm gonna go.
I don't think you can have Priskin, Jacob. I just don't think you can have him. He's just ultimately had a couple of moments, but he again sort of epitomised the sort of pretty terrible recruitment under Boothroyd in the Premier League.
He charmed me when I met him in Kismet Kebab on the High Street.
Fair play. Yeah.
Yes, and he was a big fan of L'artista as well, Tamas. But I'm gonna go with. I think Danny Graham has to be locked in.
Yeah, we're certain with that.
And I think it's either between Helgeson or Vydra.
Thing about Vydra is, well, I suppose he had 2 seasons, didn't he? He had that one where he left and came back, didn't he?
And also, Charlie did spend about an hour making a compilation about him as well.
Obviously, he was electric as well for Derby. I can't remember where. I think he left. Did he leave as originally for West Brom? That didn't work out. Went to Reading, and then again he helped us get promoted.
Come on, get him in there. Go on then.
I think Vidra's more Npower than Helgeson's Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll go with that. So Charlie,
player of the season 2012-2013 as well.
Charlie, can you do us the honours and run us through this team? 4-4-2. No Al Bangura, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's fuming. Let's get this up.
And also let us know in the comment section which manager you think should be managing this team, which is the purest Watford Coca-Cola Npower 11. In goal, right. Charlie.
In goal, we've got Scott Loach. Wait, before, one change that we would make. For me, Tommy Smith has to be in a pure Coca-Cola Npower 11.
I agree.
Not only get him in for us, but for other teams.
Yeah.
He reeks of the stuff. He bleeds Coca-Cola.
I would get him in ahead of Anya, because now we've got Vydra in there. I'd get him ahead of Anya.
Yeah, agreed. I think Anya's the weak link, unfortunately. Great guy. Lovely guy, by all accounts. But
you're getting him on the left cutting in, are we? Nice.
Yeah.
Tommy Smith makes it into
He definitely played on the left. I think he played on the left for us quite a bit in that second spell when he came back.
He could do it all anywhere.
4-4-2.
He played on the left against me at the Vic in a game the day before the FA Cup final, actually.
Yeah, we played a little.
You let him out of your pocket yet?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Honestly, though, that day I remember. I mean, obviously, amazing privilege to be able to play in that game. And there was a moment where Smith he did a thing, and it was like the world was moving in slow motion. He did that thing where he just slowed down and just knocked it and ran past me. I was like, oh wow. I feel like so many Coca-Cola fullbacks.
Mike Hyde pulling the strings that day. So we've got Scott Loach in goal, a back four of Chambers, Demerit, Shitu, and John Harley.
How's Harley sneaked his way in there? Incredible.
Because we've got no left backs. Gavin Marn, John Eustace as a midfield 2, Hammer Buatza on the right, Tommy Smith on the left, with a front 2 of Danny Graham and Matej Vidra. Now, lads, to wrap up the stream, we need a manager to go with these guys. Now, Martin Pry in the comment section has gone, it's got to be Dyche. Nothing says Npower more than Dyche. With Malky, Ian says, as the assistant manager. Now, I'm leaning more towards Malky.
It's got to be 80.
But I think you're judging it by how successful we were, Charlie.
No, I'm judging it. Dyche's Premier League. He was with Burnley for how many years? And I know we're talking about Watford, but how long was he our manager? One season?
One season, yeah.
Exactly. Zola had more time than him. But 80 Boothroyd for me. And maybe I'm just looking at that when we got promoted, seeing that sponsorship, the confetti.
I think this might be the end of the argument, Dave, but Malky Mackay not only played for Watford in the Coca-Cola era, managed Watford in the Npower era. I think just 10-11.
That's not a bad shout. It probably is him. I mean, again, I think AD's promotion, I think the fact that he took us up and he had that year in the Premier League probably rules him out, I guess, on this basis. So I think Malky was pure Npower, wasn't he?
I think so. I mean, look, an honourable mention to Gianfranco Zola. Probably
don't forget Ray Lewington as well. He had the first year in the Coca-Cola.
Ray Lewington, as mentioned in the comment section. Brendan Rodgers was mentioned, but he ditched us for Reading. And I think...
Sanino slipped in at the end.
Sanino. Goodness me. And what kit would we wear? Ian wants to keep going. Which kit would we pick?
Ooh.
I forgot about this. And one man robbed Joby.
Joby McInnes.
EFL Elite.
He could be in about 5 or 6 different Npower teams, couldn't he? Yeah, and we're not foremost, I don't think, in his career. But I think it probably is that kit, isn't it? I think it's Bico, definitely a Bico sponsor.
I prefer this one. Was this after the Premier League though?
That was 07-08, that yellow kit. Yeah. So
after we went back down.
Yeah.
What about Burda Squared, where we had double Burda, not only as the manufacturer, but as the kit sponsor?
Burda Squared. Yeah.
We're not having it. Do you know what? Let us know. We've had an hour chatting mainly about Watford nostalgia, but in the comment section, let us know your team. Let us know any changes you'd make. Let us know the manager you'd have and also the kit as well. Dave, Charlie, any final thoughts you wanted to say to the viewers and the listeners on what has been an eventful episode here on WD18?
It's been great fun.
Yeah, good fun. But Al Bangura robs. I'm looking at Marn and Eustace, and they're too similar. There's no. You need a bit of what's the word? Not chemistry, a yin to your yang. But yeah, I'll be thinking I'm going to be looking back at Al Bangura tonight.
Yeah, Steve Cabber's on my mind at the moment. Dave, any praise you wanted to mention?
I think the one I'm most sad about actually not getting in there. I would have liked to have snuck Paul Devlin in there. I got a soft spot for him, but yeah, with a big apology, sincere apologies to Al Bangura. I think Al gets in a Watford sort of cult 11, probably, doesn't he? Or he's certainly in the conversation.
The streets won't forget 11. A huge shout out to Dave. Thanks so much for coming on, mate, and then Charlie as well. And everyone who watched today, if you are listening on audio, make sure to drop us a review on iTunes, on Spotify. And if you enjoyed on YouTube, drop us a like, subscribe to WD18, comment down below your thoughts, as I said. And we'll be back, Charlie, Sunday night. We'll be back Sunday night, normal time, 8 o'clock, roughly. And we will see you then. Take care, guys, and up the Hornets. You want.